So let me start today with this. Have you ever spread yourself too thin? Have you ever taken on too many tasks that you really couldn't complete? It's not a great feeling. You feel like you're overwhelmed. And believe it or not, your performance suffers. Great example. Let's say you're a good evaluator of talent. Let's also say that you're a great head coach. You want to be a GM and a head coach at the same time. Very rarely does that work out in any league, in any sport, because you're spread too thin. You could be really good and really skillful at both of those jobs. That doesn't mean if you do them together, you're going to find success. It's too much work. NFL head coaches wake up at 5 in the morning. They're at the facility at 6. They're there till 10 at night. And imagine being a GM on top of it and evaluating talent, thinking about who you should draft coming up. Who should I trade? Who should I keep? Who should I sign to the practice squad? All of those issues come to your desk if you're the GM. You might be good at both jobs, but if you do them together, there's going to be an issue. Bill O'Brien, this just happened in Houston. GM and head coach fired from both. He can't evaluate talent, and he's not a horrible head coach, but doing both at the same time is too overwhelming. And if you try and balance it, chances are you're going to strike out in both aspects. What am I getting at here? After Monday night, I think it's safe to say that Matt Nagy should not be calling plays anymore. 4th and 1, game on the line. Cordero Patterson had an 89% chance to convert and keep the game going. He missed it. Why is there a play call for Cordero Patterson to run on a 4th and 1? Deep inside your own territory. You do have a running back, you know. Yeah, that David Montgomery guy is supposed to be pretty good. All night and all year, Matt Nagy just hasn't clicked. His offensive play calling style does not work with either of the two quarterbacks here. Let's be honest. It wasn't Mitch Trubisky's fault that he was benched. It was Nagy's. It isn't necessarily all on Nick Foles for not succeeding. Who's telling him what to do? Matt Nagy can't call plays anymore. It's that simple. Either the NFL has caught on to his scheme, which is very possible after 2018, and Nagy himself hasn't made adjustments. That's very possible. Or there's another aspect. He's spread too thin. I put this on Twitter yesterday. I still stand by it. If he could actually fess up and say, I'm done calling plays, the Bears could salvage their season. I mean that. Let Bill Lazor call the plays. That's what an offensive coordinator is supposed to do. You're a head coach. You can't just call offensive plays. You have so many other responsibilities on your plate besides just the offense. That's a fact. Why not be smart about it? Remember, it's Matt Nagy's coaching staff. He decides who he hires. So basically, if he didn't like Bill Lazor, he wouldn't have hired him. Lazor isn't stupid. Lazor's been around the game a long time. He knows offense. That's why he's the OC. Let him call the plays. I get it. You're an offensive coach. It's your baby. But sometimes you have to give it up for the good of the team. Simple as that. Because what we saw on Monday can't happen again. Ever. That was atrocious. I don't know what we were even watching. Nick Foles throwing 2 picks. On brand, by the way. Check out this stat. Nick Foles has an interception in every game this season. According to NFL.com, he also has one or more interceptions over his last 6 games, longest active streak in the NFL. Thanks to Rob Schwartz Jr. with that stat. All he does is throw picks. Say what you want about Mitch Trubisky. He didn't turn over the ball an abnormal amount like Nick Foles. I said multiple times on Monday, put in Mitch Trubisky. The game got out of hand. Why was he not in there getting some reps? Why not? What do you have to lose at that point? You're down by 21. Let Foles take a breather. Get him ready for next week. The Saints are on Sunday. That's not going to be an easy one. Put in Mitch now and let him get some reps. But nope. Other people on Twitter pointed out that I was way off and that Foles and Mitch would have done the same job on Monday, which I disagree with. Mitch doesn't turn the ball over. Not as much as Nick Foles does. That's a fact. I don't see Mitch Trubisky good for 1 pick every game, 6 games in a row. That doesn't happen. Nick Foles did not have the best night. Didn't come as a surprise to me, but for all of his supporters who continue to rally behind him, I think you have to start looking at yourself, thinking, is he the right guy? Remember, he's a stopgap quarterback. I said this the minute they got him. I can't even express this enough. He lost his job to Gardner Minshew. We know that. Gardner Minshew's about to get benched himself in Jacksonville. That goes to show you just how good he is. And believe it or not, who's behind him? Mike Glennon. Okay? Don't tell me that Nick Foles is super good. Don't tell me that he's the answer to this problem. He's not. This was never about Foles. This was never about Trubisky. I firmly believe today if Mitch had the right coach, the right scheme, if he had the right guy calling the shots and working to his strengths, he'd be a hell of a quarterback. The guy is mobile. He can move. He likes rollouts. He could run. He's not a bad quarterback. Put him with the right coach, and I guarantee you he'll throw for 3,500, 4,000 yards. Someone texted me after the game, and they said, well, the Bears may want to trade Mitch to New England or Dallas. What do you think? And I said, great. Give him a new coach. Give him a new environment. Give him a chance to be himself. That's when you'll see him at his best. Let him be himself. It's a quarterback-driven league. I can't believe we're back in the Stone Ages here in Chicago. Has anyone watched the NFL over the past 5 years? Has anyone seen the evolution of the league and offense? 5-10 years ago, if Lamar Jackson had debuted, he would have never been who he is today. You know why? No coach would have let him run the ball like they do in Baltimore. No one would have said, I'm open to this. I'll let him do what he wants. That never would have happened. It's a new era. It's quarterback driven. If you succeed in college, they bring that to the NFL. They work with you to be a good quarterback. You know why? That's a big investment. That's your franchise. You have to make sure they do well. You have to invest in them. You should be making them as comfortable as possible. You should be putting them in the best position to succeed. That isn't happening with both quarterbacks. This isn't even a Trubisky versus Foles issue. This is just in general. Right now, the Bears are not putting their quarterbacks in a good position to succeed. They have virtually no weapons, and I don't want to hear about Darnell Mooney. I don't want to hear about Anthony Miller. The only true weapon the Bears have is Allen Robinson. I will fight you tooth and nail on that. No one else on that team is established. As much as I like David Montgomery, still isn't established. It may not be his fault, but the truth is, what has he done in the NFL? The Bears have no offensive weapons, and they've got a coach who's spread too thin. That's all. It's actually pretty simple. This isn't being overly critical, it's calling it like it is. If the Bears could bolster up offensively, their line, couple of wide receivers, they'd be fine. If Matt Nagy wasn't calling the plays and focusing on just head coaching, we wouldn't even have this problem. Matt Nagy is spread too thin. You can't be a head coach and a play caller. You can't be an HC and an OC. It's one or the other. That's why there are two different positions. Relinquish play calling. He's spread too thin. That's how we open, remember? If you're really good at two different things, but you try to do them together at the same time, it's going to fail. You're not going to perform. Being a head coach requires a lot of hours, a lot of prep. Being an offensive coordinator requires, I would argue, the same amount of hours and the same prep. There aren't enough hours in the day to do both, unless you never slept and went 24/7. That doesn't happen. Matt Nagy needs to realize that. I know it's your baby. I know you're an offensive guy, but give it up. You have someone who's really qualified next to you. Let him call the plays. Focus on head coaching. And while you're at it, give your offense some weapons. That's what it's all about. You're not setting your guys up for success when your number 2 receiver essentially is a 5th-round pick. I know Mooney has impressed a bit, but come on now. He's a rookie. If you want this team to be a Super Bowl contender, you're not going to do it with one all-pro wide receiver and then a bunch of 4th and 5th rounders. It's not going to happen. I don't care if they overperform. I don't care if they make a big name for themselves. They're rookies. They're late-round picks. Some of them 2nd and 3rd years. They still haven't done anything. It's time to move on. It's time to invest some real money in a wide receiver or two. You probably expected me to really be mad after that Rams game, but the truth is I'm not, because the problems that I saw are very fixable. There is a reason to be optimistic. There is. Matt Nagy should not be calling plays. End of story. Focus on one thing. Don't spread yourself too thin. And please get some weapons offensively. This really isn't a Foles and Trubisky problem. This is an offensive weapons problem. When you have only one receiver to throw to, you're behind the 8 ball. When you don't have a running game, you're behind the 8 ball. When your offensive line can't protect you against a good pass rush, you're behind the 8 ball. All of that happened on Monday. Foles was constantly pressured. That's why he threw the 2 picks. Both times he had to get rid of the ball quick, and he made a bad throw. That's why David Montgomery was averaging 3 yards per carry that night. That's why he's averaging 2.5 on the season. And that's why you're 5-2 today, when you should be 6-1. These are simple problems that could be fixed easily, and you could salvage your season. It's not over by any stretch of the imagination. 5-2 is a great record. Consider it. But you've got a number of tough games coming up. Saints, Titans, I don't see the Bears winning if there are no changes. If they stick to the script like they did on Monday, they're going to be 5-4 pretty quick. They started off so well because they stuck to their guns, the defense, who, by the way, did not play bad. The reason they gave up so many points is because they never got a chance to rest, but that's besides the point. The Bears have stuck to their guns. They've won 5 games. Now it's time for step 2, expanding a bit, getting better where you're weak. That separates you from being a wild card team and getting eliminated right away, or being a Super Bowl team. We all know what you're really good at. What about your weaknesses, though? Can you improve upon those? Can you get better as the season moves forward? Right now, it's not looking like it. That's despite the fact that the fixes are easy. They are. 2 things. All you got to do are 2 things, and you will be a top football team. That's it. Matt Nagy, don't call plays. Be a head coach. You can't do both of them together. And secondly, please get some weapons offensively. Whether it be a new O-line piece, whether it be another wide receiver, which the Bears desperately need. That's going to make you great. That's going to make you better. You don't need to blow things up. The defense has kept you in this playoff hunt so far. There's no reason to say it's over. But if the changes aren't made offensively, if Matt Nagy can't realize that he's spread too thin, if the Bears can't get another weapon or someone can't emerge as a second weapon, they're not going anywhere. And it's a shame because this team has the potential to be a Super Bowl contender. They do. Say what you want, they do. Their defense is good enough to get them anywhere. And if you know anything about NFL history, then you know that this team could do it. Hell, they went to the Super Bowl with Rex Grossman. Anything is possible. They've beaten down some good teams. They beat Tampa Bay. They beat Carolina. They're not beating only the pushovers. But in order to beat elite teams more often, changes need to be made. We're not talking about a rebuild. We're not talking about going off brand. We're not talking about ending this season. We're talking about 2 minimal but incremental changes that will make you a division winner, that will make you a Super Bowl contender. And it's all about realizing and assessing the situation. If the Bears do it, they'll be fine. If they don't, expect a lot of Monday night to continue to happen. More to come here on Sports Talk Chicago. My interview with Brian Dempster comes up next, so stay tuned. It's been an amazing World Series, right? Tampa and Los Angeles going back and forth. In Texas, it's been super fun to watch. And guess what? With a couple of games left, I have an easy way for you to make some money, okay? Here's what you have to do. Go to sportstalkchicago.com/cash. sportstalkchicago.com/cash. You have to be 21 or older. You have to be an Illinois resident. You could get $250 free to bet on the World Series or any game you would like coming up this week. And you don't have to know a lot about gambling. I've heard so many people tell me, John, I want to gamble, I want to bet, but I know nothing. That's okay. I don't know much either, and I could still make some money. It's that simple. Just go to sportstalkchicago.com/cash, sportstalkchicago.com/cash for $250 free. You can't get this offer anywhere else. sportstalkchicago.com/cash, sportstalkchicago.com/cash. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.